Well, we welcome everybody back. It's another opportunity for us to visit with a very, very special guest, and a guest that I've had a long relationship with over the years, a wrestling team, a roommate, and we've ventured out even over the last few years in an organization we call Wrestling MS, where we raise money together to help put patients with MS on bikes. And Gary's been a big part of that, been a big part of my life, and frankly, a real inspiration to a lot of people, including myself. I value certainly our friendship, Gary, and so glad you have a chance to join us today. So we're going to get into some things that we probably normally wouldn't talk about on our Consiglio Wellness Center broadcast, but in this one, it's a very special show in that we've got a guy like yourself here who's kind of been there, done that, and I say that with great pride, knowing what you've accomplished in your life. Everything from climbing mountains to your business ventures, pretty much everything that you've done. And I know that one of the things that you're probably most proudest of is just being a good person and a good dad and a good husband in your life. So we're going to get into some of those things here today and have a chance to visit with about all of those things. So welcome to the show, buddy.
Well, thanks, Mike. Thanks for having me on. And I'm passionate about some of the things that you mentioned. And part of the things that I'm doing with my life right now is what I've learned about myself and about, this chapter in my life, past 60, is to share that with kids. I've seen some of the most beautiful things in the world, and I've seen some of the most horrible things in the world in the last few years. And I've been, I've been on a mission to make sure that what I do from here on out counts. And that's, I'm glad to talk about it with you.
Absolutely. I think probably the best way to handle this, and I'm sure there's going to be some segues here that, are almost, we're going to be able to blend some of this together. But one of the things that I've always been curious about is obviously you're climbing, but the goal that you set for yourself is unbelievable, to climb the 7 continents and the summits to the highest of those peaks in each of those. How did you get from, your first step and your first time that you ever climbed a mountain to make a decision that you're going to climb Everest and Denali and some of these other places that it's mind boggling. And I know that you've got a book coming out soon and that you're sharing some of those experiences. So maybe you can give us some insight on, to me, that's one of the most exciting things about your life and your journey in climbing the mountains is how do you go from, your first step and like, hey, I think I like this, to deciding that you're going to climb some of the highest mountains or the highest mountains on the earth?
Well, it started out, I did 2 seasons of The Amazing Race, a reality TV show, and got to see some really unique places in the world. And I was drug up Mount Fuji in Japan and dropped on the Matterhorn to dig a mannequin out of the snow. And I got to see so much beauty in the world. And I got back. I did 2 seasons back to back, and I got back and felt a little guilty about neglecting my 2 boys, and said, we're going to go to Africa. It's one of the most beautiful places I've ever been, and we're going to go climb Mount Kilimanjaro. We're not just going to go sit there and watch animals. We're going to do something physical. So I did that first mountain, and it just called to me. It just was something that I got down, and I said, I'm going to do another one. I'm going to see if I can climb 7,000 meters. And I went to Aconcagua, and the first time I did that, I didn't make it. But after I did that, I said, I know I can climb to 23,000 feet. And I had pretty good lungs at that altitude. And I said, I'm going to set another goal. I'm going to come back here and finish this one, and I'm going to climb all 7. And there's been, I think, 400 people was the number that have done all 7. And I'm probably in the older spectrum of that age group. But it was something, and it was funny. The first mountain I climbed, I had to figure out why, and and they always say that in order to figure out how you're going to do something, you have to understand why you're doing it. And and so I went to Aconcagua, and I saw the first people die on that mountain. And and I kind of struggled with trying to figure out why I like it so much. And it's about like anything else. If you want to figure out how to quit smoking, how to start an exercise program, you gotta kind of drill into that and say, why do I know why I want to quit, but how am I going to quit? But I need to find out the why. So to figure out how I'm going to quit smoking, to figure out how I'm going to live a healthier lifestyle, you need to know why you want to do that. And that's what I draw my motivation from. So it's just a goal, and I'm one mountain short of the goal, and it's Denali. Like I said, it's second attempt on Everest. I've spent the last 4 summers in Nepal climbing, either training or climbing a mountain in the Himalayas for the Everest expedition. And the first attempt, I fell short, saw 6 people die. I left people on top of the mountain dying, which took a lot to get over. And it's just something, and I'm running on, but it's something that really called to me. And it's the second I get off of a mountain, I'm looking for what's next. And and then a lot of it too is I enjoy sharing with mainly school kids. I've had a lot of fun doing that the last few years. I spoke with your class at Blue Springs, and I enjoy that. And maybe it piques somebody's interest in saying, I may want to try that. If a guy from rural Western Kentucky can do it, I can also.
Yeah, I love that. And I don't know if some of our listeners, Gary, have really, you mentioned the fact that, and that really touched me when you told me and showed some pictures of some of those folks on the mountainside that had either they had passed or they were in the process of passing. When you say you left them up there, not to be cold-spirited in any way, shape, or form. I understand that, you shared this with me before, is that you don't have a choice. I mean, you have no way to bring them down the mountainside. If they can't make it, they can't make it. And Sherpas made a statement to you, I believe, something to the effect that you said they're going to die if we don't do something. And I think you said the quote is that they're already dead, they just don't know it. And that was very, very touching. And certainly it's one of those things that this is real life. It's not for the faint of heart. And it takes not only the commitment to do it, but it also takes the physical action and the presence of mind, the training, and everything to make that happen. And that would probably be something that I would enjoy hearing about a little bit more. And I think our listeners would. I'm very familiar with training in different aspects of training for longevity, for sports, and for other things. But training to climb a mountain is a whole nother ballgame. And especially when you get into those altitudes and some of the terrain that you go through, what was that like the first few times that you went through that, and your experiences and what you've learned from it?
It was funny because the first few mountains, I just did a lot of running and cycling, just cardio. And I did a lot of it. I was running marathons. I ran 13 marathons. I was doing 3 or 4 triathlons a year and swimming. And then my second expedition to Everest, I joined a team called Adventure Consultants, and they're probably the top outfitter on the mountain. And the movie Everest is written about Rob Hall, and Adventure Consultants was the company. They're by far the safest on the mountain. And and it's funny, before you get on an Everest expedition, a good ran one, they got to have 2 things. One is, do you have experience on a glacier? Do you have the technical skills? And then do you have experience above 7,000 meters? And they want to know those 2 things. And then because of my age, they said we're going to have to get a sign off from one of the most renowned trainers in the world. He wrote a book called The New Alpinist, and his name is Sam Nunley. And so I had to hire a trainer, and I used this trainer, and he completely changed up. Every quarter, I would go to University of Denver Sports Medicine, and they would do lactic acid thresholds. They would reset my workout zones, my VO2 max. They would look at the glycogen in my muscles and my legs, and it was a very technical, in-depth. And they measured my progress, and they set up my workouts. They completely changed my workouts from 150 to 170 zone to where they didn't want me above 130. So most of my workouts went long durations, low heart rate. They wanted me burning, the glycogens and the fats, and not the high heart rate and the fuel I was burning at a higher heart rate. So it was very scientific. In the book the guy who wrote the book, the two guys were who I used, and then they had to vouch for me before they said, yes, he's followed our program. He's done our training program. I had a Garmin watch. They tracked every workout I did every day. They knew when I was dogging it, and they knew when I was pushing it a little bit too hard. So training was something, it's about like the wrestling season. We practiced just so we could wrestle. We trained so I can climb a mountain. The mountain part of it was fun. The marathon running, the race itself was a celebration of the training that you did to get you there. So it was unusual training, very long hours. It was at close to the peak training. It was 6 hours a day. They implemented a lot of strength training, mostly lower body strength training, which was quite a bit different than what I was doing.
What would you say, Irv, is something that you learned early that you wish that you knew when you first started? Maybe halfway through, and you said you changed your training. You did some things obviously a lot different than what you did later, and now you're a seasoned climber. What do you know that's different today that you wish you would have known when you started?
If I'd have known what I know today, I would have started way younger. But I just couldn't. I had family, I had a business. I didn't have the time to invest. I had the money. I had the physical ability still, not as much as now as what I used to. But the biggest one is making more time for myself, and that's important. And it's kind of a selfish thing to do, but if you're looking at, you want to be a better parent, you want to be a better husband, you've got to make time for yourself. You got to take care of yourself, and you got to put that up there with taking care of your family, your career. I guess that's one of the things when I really got into my fitness, which was probably not until my 40s. I was an athlete in college and high school, and then family and work took over, and lived a very unhealthy lifestyle. I had lower back problems, just tons of bad health implications. And then in my 40s, I decided I had enough, and I'm going to start taking care of myself again. And that was probably something that was a change in direction for me, as far as what I see and what I see other people doing, and I always make sure that they take care of themselves, and as focused on that as they are their career or anything else. So
it doesn't hurt, Irv, probably to have a spouse like Lisa, who is an inspiration in herself and what she does physically and what she does and her approach to life. Knowing Lisa, she's really, I think, sort of the rock behind this whole thing, right?
Oh yeah, she kills me in marathons, and we had a goal to do all the major marathons, and we've done them all but the international ones. And she qualifies for Boston, and she's a 60-year-old and runs like a 3 hour and change marathon, and I'm still can't break 4. So she qualifies, and I have to buy my way, and I have to buy a bib number. I donate money to charity, and they give me a bib where I can run Boston or New York. And even the mountaineering, she's not a fan of cold places, and she doesn't want to sleep in a tent or on a block of ice, which I can't much blame her. And she probably just putting up with me. Coming back from Everest, when I saw that, I was pretty banged up. I had my kidneys quit working. My potassium level was way out of whack, dehydrated. I had pretty bad frostbite on my face and hands, and it took me 2 weeks to get my kidneys to start working, 6 months to get feeling back in my hands and feet, and it took me a year to convince her to let me go back. So, it scared her. The day that I pushed for the summit, she got a call from the news network saying that we understand Gary's climbing the mountain. Do you know that 6 people died this morning? And so she waited 24 hours before I called her back to tell her I wasn't one of those 6, but I just so happened to be there when they died. So it took me a while to get over it. I struggled physically and mentally, and that's why I said talking to the schools and talking about it helped me recover and helped me want to go back. And she's been a big part of that. She supported me, and I've been rescued off of 4 of these mountains. I've had an aneurysm back in last year in Nepal. I spent 8 days and 4 surgeries in a Kathmandu hospital trying to stop bleeding, and then was rescued by helicopter at 19,000 feet. So she's been on the bad part of a lot of it. And like I said, it's something that I do, and I think it makes me a better husband, but she had to understand why I did it. And I think she does. And she supports me at it. And I would hope that, that I would support her if she had something equally as crazy that she was as passionate about.
You mentioned just a little bit ago, Gary, that sort of in passing, which would be something that most people would, I think, really like to hear a little bit more about, is your experiences on The Amazing Race. I can remember watching those episodes, and I've been in sports all my life, and there's around high-level athletes and things, and certainly it can be nerve-wracking in competition, but I don't think I've ever watched anything where I felt more nervous than watching you and your daughter Mallory, through these treks, and not knowing the outcome, which you obviously cannot share. As a matter of fact, you're the second person that I've had on the show of recent that has been on one of these types of shows. We had Jay Jacobs just recently on the show, and he talked about his experiences when he competed in The Biggest Loser. And I don't think people really realize what goes in to some of these presentations and productions behind the scenes. But you and Mallory competed 2 years, right? And I think she might have even gone back for a third. Yeah. They finally kicked your old butt off, and but you've got to share. I think you have to share a little bit about your experience on The Amazing Race and what you took from that experience.
So a funny story about how I got selected is my daughter was Miss Kentucky, and she was a runner-up in Miss America. And they asked her to go on Survivor, and she was in the last month or 2 of her Miss Kentucky reign, and she said, "I've been starving for a year. I'm not going to go on an island and starve for another 40 days." And she turned them down. She said no. Well, the same casting company did The Amazing Race. They said, "We'll get a partner," and we went and interviewed and left in 2 weeks after our interview. And then we were gone for the first episode, and the next episode was an all-star season called Unfinished Business. and they called us back. And so we were home for like, it just started airing. It hadn't even been completed the season we were on. And we left the week after the opening season aired. We didn't even get to see the end of our season. So we were on the race when the season was being done. But it was so much fun. Like you said, it was a competitive thing, and it may be goofy things like getting all your body hair waxed with 12 million people watching you scream, and or digging out a mannequin on the top of the Matterhorn. You never knew what you got, and it was pretty stressful. One of the things about these and how they were really, really kind, because we were father and daughter. They said if she would have had another pageant girl, they probably would have, every bad thing they did would have made the episode, where in our case, every good thing we did made the episode. So, they want drama, but they also want to see, father and daughter get along. So they were real kind to us on edits, but I had so much fun. I would drop everything and take off again if they asked me.
All I can remember is I still have anxiety about that taxi ride.
Oh, $1 million taxi ride, yeah.
That taxi driver, I still want to just grab and choke him, because I felt like that was the difference of probably a third place finish, right? Versus winning it.
And we would have won it. Yeah, we finished all of the obstacles faster than anybody, but we just couldn't get there. We had a cab driver that didn't know where the didn't know where the Florida Keys were, and he couldn't speak English or Spanish. He was a Haitian, and he spoke French, and so it was. I still have nightmares about that. But,
that is like one of those nightmares that you think, wow, you wake up in the middle of the night, you have these anxiety attacks that you feel like you're supposed to be somewhere and you're not there.
Well, the funny part about that, his name, I still remember his name. The cab driver's name was Sterling, and he was a nice guy. But what happened is we showed up, and it was us and a set of Globetrotters and these two sisters, and we cut under the line. We hop in. We jump the line. There's a big, long line in Miami International Airport waiting for cabs. We jump under the line, get in the cab, and then all of a sudden people are yelling, "Call the police! Call the police!" Well, we're in a cab, and he starts pulling off. And how it works is they want to video you pull off with the team in the cab, and then you got to stop the cab and load the cameraman and the sound guy in with you, and then we drive off. And in that stop, when we were loading him in, they were throwing so much. Then we had the crowd around us, and I saw this cab driver, and it was Sterling coming up, and he said, "All right, you have this cab," but it was a cab with a GPS on the dash, and it was a van, so it was really, really nice. And the guy knew Miami, so we said, "Well, we'll not fight it, and we'll just jump in this next cab." So we hopped out and hopped in another one, and we got Sterling. So,
well, that certainly was
it was so much fun.
It was fun to watch. I mean, I had never really paid a lot of attention to the show, but knowing that you were on it, especially when it first started, that first season, it drew my attention. And Francesca, my wife, we watched it through its entirety, and every week we were sitting on pins and needles. So, Gary, real quick. We're going to close up here soon. I don't want to go too long with this, but I think share us a little bit about some of the lessons that you've taken from all of your experiences. And again, you've done so much with being on The Amazing Race. You've climbed mountain after mountain, run marathons. How have you meshed that in your business philosophy with what you've done with Ervin Cable and your company itself? And I know that you've done some other things that are highly associated with, but maybe a spinoff of your first company that you built back in the day. Give me a little insight on that.
They're all similar. Anybody that is pushed to exceed or push for excellence and looks for not sitting on their butt and just letting life go by them and want to take advantage of every day. Those are things that, I've always done in business. I've always wanted to be better. And, we're up to 2,000 employees. We're a public company now. And it started out with me and my brothers in a pair of gaffs climbing telephone poles, putting cable TV systems up. So, growth is a part of life. I look at growth. If you don't grow, you die. So it may be a little bit haunting, and a lot of times you got to make sure that you check yourself and don't overdrive people around you. But that's kind of the way I've been made, and it's something that gives me great happiness to have something to work for, to have a goal to accomplish, or to fail trying to accomplish it. So I don't think that my age or my physical ability will ever change the fact of me trying to strive to do something better. So that's just it. And it was the same way business and mountaineering, the story is pretty much the same. And the last few years, and I've kind of dedicated my climbing and a lot of my experiences in life. And I started thinking about, in 2018, I was on Everest the year I summited, and my daughter that was on the race with me was having my first grandchild. And I'd already had my payment in. I was going to miss the birth of my first grandchild, and I felt really, really guilty about that. And one of the things I started doing, and it's kind of given me a new lease on why I do things, is document lessons to my grandchild. And these are lessons I've learned about myself. And these are, you can go to the website and you can see every chapter. I'll have something like beware of potato sellers. And it's a story that I'll tell that a lady fell into a potato seller, broke her leg and messed up her arm, had to be life flighted out of this village up the mountain. And, and she's an Australian lady. It was her third attempt to climb Everest. And the moral and the lesson to my grandkids was it's not how many potato cells you fall into. It's how you dust yourself off and get out and keep going. And, every 2 or 3 days, there would be something like that would happen, or something that I would get inspiration from. So I would write it down. And the book that I'm working on now, a lot of it is, it was lessons to my grandchildren. But I got a guy helping me write it, and he changed it to find your own yak trails, live your own life. And so that's probably part of it. And that's what I've gotten a lot of joy out of the last few years. And you're on a mountain by yourself in a tent for months at a time. The last 6 years, I've spent 2 to 4 months in a tent a year. And you're stuck in a tent with just your thoughts. So the only two things that work up there, and they don't work very good with your brain with lack of oxygen, is a pencil and a piece of paper. Nothing else works. So I started writing my thoughts down and dedicating them to what I wanted to leave for my grandchildren. So that's been kind of the point of things here recently.
Well, I'll be totally honest with you, Gary. I'm really excited to have an opportunity to read the book. Some of our listeners, I think, would be too. When can we kind of expect that? And do you have any idea when that might be released, or how would they get the book?
So I've got Denali. That's going to be the last chapter. So it may take, May is my last of the 7 summits. Had a little bit of setback with Corona. I've got a new titanium hip. So I've had some, I had to get the frame tuned up before I go up the last mountain. So hopefully that last chapter will get written next May, and it would probably be after that. But most of the stories that are in it are on my website, and that's running below. you can kind of get a sense of what the book's about by reading the chapters of the mountains I climb.
Last question for you. In comparison, how does Denali relate in climb technically to some of the other mountains? What's the challenge that you have left?
So it's funny. My monitor I'm looking at, and I'll pull my camera off. I've got all the summits. I've got all the trails to the summits, and every day I look at these mountains, and I look at what I've got to go through to get to the summit. I look at the traps and the hard parts, and I visualize kind of what I'm going to be feeling like when I get to this point. And Denali has been one that I've been looking at. It's a big weather mountain. It's 20,000 plus feet. It's pretty high pressure, so your oxygen is going to be, equivalent to 7,000 or 23,000 foot mountain. So you've got altitude, you've got some technical head walls you got to climb. So you got to have some good rope skills. But it's crampons and ice axe, and just you've got to get lucky with the weather. So it's a bad weather mountain. They can have 2 meters of snow a day, and you're spending all your energy shoveling yourself out of your tent out of snow drifts. So it's I'm looking forward to it, but it's the last big one that I've got. So I don't know what's next after that, but it's going to be a fun one. I've got a real good outfitter called Mountain Trip that I'm going with, and they're working in conjunction with the Australian company Adventure Consultants that I climb with. So looking forward. Got a good set of guys that I'm climbing with.
Well, Irv, I'm sure that a lot of our listeners are going to fit into one of two categories. They're going to look at this as like, this dude is absolutely amazing, or he's absolutely crazy, one of the two. So, which I'm sure you've probably run into that in your experiences as well.
Did I show you my hip bone?
Yes, you did. Yeah.
So I carried my hip bone. It was during COVID. They took my hip out, and I came through the scanners at the airport. And I was supposed to get a letter to where I could go through the scanner. So they gave me my hip bone back because I want to leave it on top of Denali. And so when I go through the scanners and it goes off, I said, they didn't give me my letter, but here's my hip bone. I can show you the scar if you really want me to. But
yeah, you've got to keep a sense of humor with this whole thing, or it wouldn't work, I'm sure. So, Gary, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you jumping on with us today. I know you're busy with your businesses and training and other things to get ready for the big climb, and you've got 1,000 things with your philanthropic efforts that you put forth. I look forward to having a chance to read the book down the road, and hope we get a chance to cross paths soon too.
We always will, Mike. Thank you.
All right. Take care, buddy. Talk to you soon.